Hello and good morning. I'm Ken. Thank you for joining me for Casual Coffee with Ken. This is my morning show where I bring you interesting, upbeat, and sometimes uplifting, maybe dare we say even inspiring stories to start off your day. And it's Tuesday. It is Tuesday, right? Yes, it is Tuesday. Does that tell you how my Monday went? Yeah, very happy it's Tuesday. And I hope you're having a great Tuesday morning as well. Thank you so much for joining me. I do this because, there are positive news stories out there. You have to work sometimes to find them. People are busy, and so I'm trying to do my part to make the world a brighter place by aggregating some of my favorite stories and sharing them with you. Hopefully, you're interested in them, and they help you start the morning off in a more positive note rather than, starting your day off being pummeled by the negative news cycle that's all designed to play on our emotions and drive ad revenue. So, anyway, that's why I do this. It's good for my mental health to research positive news stories. And then I like to share that with you fine people. So if you are new here, it is a live show. You can comment during the show. I will see your comments and I can bring them into the show as you make them. And if you are commenting for the first time, let me know where in the world you are watching from, because it's always fun for me to know where my audience is located. So, yeah, welcome. I hope you're having a good day. No fancy tea today. My tea this morning is just Earl Grey, decaf Earl Grey from Bigelow. Just kind of ran out of time this morning, uh, so I didn't have time to brew any of my fancy tea from David's. That's okay. So again, I hope everyone is having a fun day, and let me know how your Monday went. Always interested in how people are dealing with their weeks, because everybody's day is different. Obviously, everybody has different challenges as they start a new week, whether it's job-related challenges or maybe personal things that are going on that might be making your life more interesting, I guess. We'll put it diplomatically than it otherwise would be. I love to hear what people are up to, what you're going through, what's going on in your life, because this is a show where I get to share positive news stories, but it's also a conversation in real time. And that's a very important part for me, is having that real-time interaction with people. So again, welcome. Hope everyone's doing well. And let's go ahead and I guess we'll just jump right into it. Now, the first story is it combines two subjects that I have a passing interest in, and that's clothes and the environment. Now, there's been a move in the fashion industry towards becoming more sustainable. The manufacturing of clothing is a very resource intense process. Not always the most environmentally friendly of processes. So anything that the clothing industry can do to make things a little bit more environmentally friendly is a welcome change. And a lot of brands have started moving towards more sustainable manufacturing processes. This next story focuses on not only an improved manufacturing process from an environmental standpoint, but the end product, the end clothing item has or will have a very tangible impact on CO2 emissions in our atmosphere. Uh, and it's fascinating to me. It's really cool. And so what I'm talking about are living fabrics. So by living fabrics, I'm talking about fabrics that can eat CO2 out of the atmosphere. So they're describing the material as being a carbon negative material. So the way this works is that the for example, in some of these t-shirts that they're using this process on, there is algae being used to make the t-shirts. And the algae, when processed this specific way, um, will draw carbon out of the atmosphere. So that whatever material this particular algae is applied to will render that fabric into a carbon sink. I mean, if you're familiar with computers at all, you've probably heard of a heat sink, which basically absorbs all the heat inside a computer case to keep the electronics cool. This is a carbon sink for clothing. So the shirt or jacket that you wear when treated with this algae would actually draw out and remove CO2 from the atmosphere. And then it in turn, in addition to absorbing carbon dioxide, it will emit oxygen. So they're estimating that one large t-shirt will generate about as much oxygen as a 6-year-old oak tree. That's crazy. So if you're wearing one of these shirts, simply by wearing a large shirt treated with this algae, you, as you are just going about your day, will be putting out as much oxygen as a 6-year oak tree would be putting out into the world. That's amazing. You're absorbing carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and you're putting oxygen back into it simply by wearing this fabric. That's amazing. So, I mean, there are caveats to this, of course, just as far as care of the of the clothing. It's a little bit different. You don't actually you can't put it in your closet. It needs light and carbon dioxide, so you have to store your clothes in a well-ventilated area, and it would be it's a hand wash only fabric because washing machines would be too vigorous. It would actually harm the algae embedded into the material. So yeah, the inventor actually says that they wouldn't recommend this coating for your underwear, but maybe for a windbreaker or a jacket. So this is fashion that has a lot of potential to do amazing things for the environment. It's absolutely, it's kind of mind-blowing, actually. I'm all about this. It's hard to sometimes get people to actively do things to reduce carbon emissions and to and to be more actively proactive when it comes to the environment and just improving things. This would be something that everyone could do just by wearing their normal clothes. I mean, that's the potential for this. I think is staggering, and as long as they keep the price point of the clothing at a reasonable price, I think it wouldn't be really a hard sell for most people, other than you have to be a little more finicky about how you care for the clothes, how you wash them, and where you store them. But it's great. I'm excited by things like this. I love science. I love what we can do uh, to just improve the world through science. It's wonderful to me. A lot of times, news will focus on the negative aspects of science, but this kind of stuff, it just reaffirms my my faith, which is a weird thing to say, my faith in scientific advances. It's I don't know, I love it. I love this kind of thing. Oh, and hola to you, Sean. Good morning. Hope you're having a good day so far. A happy Tuesday. If you're just joining in, we just covered a story about clothing that, by the way it's manufactured with a certain kind of algae, the shirt or jacket you're wearing will absorb carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and then put back oxygen into the atmosphere, equivalent to the amount of oxygen produced by a 6-year-old oak tree. So that's pretty cool. I'm excited to see where this goes. I'm hoping that they'll be able to kind of ramp up production of these kinds of shirts and other pieces of apparel quickly. I think this is going to be. I think this could be a game changer. Imagine if even a quarter of the population of the Earth were wearing fabrics that absorbed carbon dioxide and put out oxygen. Anyway, so it blew my mind. I think there's so much potential in something like this. Love it. So let's move from fashion and the environment to someone who clearly has nerves of steel, and some might argue a very poor self-preservation instinct, but in this case, it was a good thing, because this guy just basically ran straight into a situation that a lot of people might otherwise freeze when confronted with. So this gentleman saw a burning car and ran towards it. Uh, he he saw the car on fire as he was leaving a birthday dinner he was having, and he saw this car burning, and it was dripping gasoline, he says, and he saw people getting out of the car, but then a woman started screaming about her baby, and he just ran over to the car, and he saw the airbags deployed. He sliced those into little pieces, saw the baby girl, reached in, grabbed her, and then ran, which was a good thing, because 30 seconds later, the whole car was just, there wasn't a car anymore. It was basically just kindling for the fire. And of course, emergency crews would eventually, show up, but they're saying the baby could have died. I think it's pretty much guaranteed that that baby would have been killed if he hadn't acted quickly. So the fire battalion chief said that he doesn't encourage people to run towards burning cars, you know, but in this case, it really did work out for the best for all concerned. So yeah, so kudos to that man, Josh Rayleigh is his name, from Peoria, Illinois. Uh, just minding his own business, having a nice birthday dinner with his girlfriend, and yeah, ended up leaping into action. And I know that in our own lives, we all picture ourselves as the protagonist, right? The hero of our own adventure, whatever happened, that happens to be from day to day in our lives. It's just kind of how most people are wired. I don't know how many people would actually do what he did, would actually run over to a car that was on fire and then have the presence of mind to do what needed to be done to rescue anybody. It's a lot of people freeze in stressful emergency situations, and that's not a knock. I mean, that's everyone reacts to disasters, to trauma uh, differently. And normally, the people who run towards burning buildings do so because they have received extensive training on doing just that. Uh, and for someone who clearly has no background in that, uh, to step up and do what needed to be done is wonderful and should be celebrated. It just again reaffirms my belief in the human spirit, and and reminds me that there are good people doing good things every day. You just have to look for it, since most of the time you're not going to hear about it on your regular news cycle. So kudos to Josh. Well done. I've been surprised how I react in emergencies. You really don't know what you're made of until the moment hits. Yeah, exactly. You can you can learn uh, skills like that. There's a really good book by an author named Amanda Ripley. I think it's called Aftermath. I think that's the name of the book, Aftermath When Disaster Strikes. And she interviews a lot of survivors of disasters, including people who survived the 9/11 attacks in New York. Uh, and it's possible to actually train yourself to respond a certain way in an emergency, but for most people, it takes a lot of training. And it has to become a habit, and it only becomes a habit through very deliberate practice. So it's a fascinating book. I highly recommend anyone interested in this subject at all to pick it up. The author's name again is Amanda Ripley, and the name of the book, I believe, is Aftermath. So yeah, check it out. You won't be disappointed if you're into this stuff anyway. So the third story today, um, I I admire people who are musicians. I play the violin a little bit, and I play guitar. I used to sing back when my voice was still okay. Uh, but there are people that I'm constantly seeing on the internet that just blow my mind with the level of ability that they demonstrate. And this young man is absolutely uh, amazing. You hear the term prodigy thrown around a lot because it's It's an enticing word. We're fascinated by prodigies of any kind, but I think especially musician prodigies. This guy is the real deal, and he's been like this since about the age of 3. So what makes his story particularly compelling to me is the fact that he's blind, uh, and has been just about since birth. So this guy, Matthew Whitaker, um, he he has been playing piano since about 3. He's been performing all over the world since he was 11. The thing that makes him unique is, again, the fact that he's been blind just about since birth. He was born premature. He was born at 24 weeks, weighed a whopping 1 pound, 11 ounces. But by the time he was 3 years old, he was playing two-handed piano compositions and writing his own songs. Now, think about that. A 3-year-old not just kind of banging on a little toy piano, but actually playing it, playing chords, playing harmonies, playing with both hands on the keyboard, and improvising his own songs at 3. So that's crazy. His parents were, of course, completely blown away by this, but no one would believe that Matthew had this ability. It was just crazy. I mean, he can identify a song after like 3 notes. It's just completely amazing. Those are his parents right there. Um, his dad said that he was playing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, but playing it with both hands, playing the chords and the melody at the same time. So they spent uh, a while trying to find him a teacher, and no one wanted to teach him because they're like, I don't know, how would I teach a blind person piano? But they finally did. They finally found a teacher, and her name was, or is, Dahlia Sakas, the director of music studies at the Philemon M. D'Agostino Greenberg Music School in New York City. And the school is a specialized music school for visually impaired students. And all it took was her hearing him play one time, and she's all, yep, we'll bring him in, we'll train him. So the thing that he does that's even more impressive, not only can he play any song as soon as he's heard it, but he can improvise around it and make it something that was more than what it started out to be. And to really kind of get that across, I want you to think about the scene in the movie Amadeus, which I think everyone knows by now is a highly fictionalized account of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart's life. It was highly inaccurate, but there's a particular scene in that movie that really calls out the ability that Matthew has. And it's the scene where Mozart is performing for, I believe, gosh, I can't remember the character's name now. But Emperor something or other, probably not Emperor. Anyway, Mozart is performing for this monarch, and he's being welcomed in to formally meet the monarch, and Salieri has composed a march of welcome for Mozart, and it's being played rather badly by one of the other nobles there who was a student of Salieri's in the movie. And they go to present the music to Mozart for the March of Welcome that played him in, and he's all, no, I have it. It's up here after one hearing. But to add insult to injury, in this case in the movie, he not only plays it back perfectly, but he improves the song. There's a part in there where he's playing it and he's all, but that doesn't quite work. And then he plays it again and he makes it better. And then he ends up using Salieri's song as the basis for the aria in the play he would write, the opera he would write later, The Marriage of Figaro. Completely fictionalized account of how the Marriage of Figaro was, came into being, but fun. Nevertheless, that really illustrates what Matthew can do. He can hear something, he can play it after hearing it once, and then he can just expand upon whatever that song is and make it into something completely original. And he can do that with anything from classical music to Beyonce. Freaking mind-blowing to me. So yeah, I love these kinds of stories. And he is so good that there was a particular scientist that actually wanted to study his brain. His name was Dr. Charles Limb. There's a picture of him right there. And Dr. Limb is also a musician, and he's also a neuroscientist. And he is really curious about what happens inside the brains of people like Matthew, people who are clearly just on a whole other level of ability than most humans in whatever discipline that they're engaging in. And so he got permission from Matthew and Matthew's family to stick him in an MRI machine and look at what was happening. And so they were monitoring his brain during the MRI scans, and they saw that when they were playing music, the entire part of his brain that isn't used in his case, which is the visual cortex, because, again, he's blind, the visual cortex would light up like a Christmas tree when he heard music. So his working theory is that his entire brain is stimulated by music. And it seems, and this is a quote from Dr. Lim, it seems like, quote, his brain is taking that part of the tissue that's not being stimulated by sight and using it, or maybe helping him to perceive music with it. Is it a perfect explanation as to this guy's really extraordinary ability with the piano? No, but it's intriguing nonetheless. Again, it's just another instance of there are so many things that we can't explain in life, and I think that as we become more proficient with scientific discovery, that we're going to learn a lot more. We know so little about the brain, so this kind of thing really inspires me. Because so many things could develop, he's the musical daredevil, yeah. So there were so many other areas that something like this could be applied to, I think, if we can figure out why Matthew's brain does what it does, how it seems to make up for other skills by using parts of the brain that are unused for their normal function, in this case the visual cortex. I don't know. It's fascinating to me and inspiring. And I don't know. It's a beautiful story for me. Uh, I'll go ahead and link down below to the story so you can um, learn more about it. And there's an interesting video, excuse me, an interesting video that goes along with it. And he does have an album out. I mean, he tours all over the world. This guy is living his best life. It's very cool. Daredevil of music, I like it. So, wow, already it's been half an hour. There's a couple stories I didn't get to, so I will save those for tomorrow's show. But one thing I did want to share under a section that I will call What's Surprising Ken is, I don't know, after I was talking about toys, oh yeah, Darwin-inspired toys last week, and I got to thinking about toys from my childhood, and I was really surprised that this toy is still around. I had this as a kid. It's called Gnip-Gnop, which is ping pong spelled backwards. I don't know why this popped in my brain, but I went looking for it online, and much to my surprise, it's still around. You can buy one of these at Walmart. It's different now. The original had, 3 balls that you had to slam through the little barrier into your opponent's area, and now the new one has 4, and it looks like it might be a little bit more complicated barrier to get ping pong balls through. But it's still around and still called the same thing, and it was just like, okay. I just thought that was a toy that was long gone, and so it was very surprising to me that you can still buy it at Walmart, of all places. So, all right, there we go. Kind of rambled today. Sorry about that. But again, thank you for joining me. Do me a favor, if you enjoyed these stories, if you like the idea of waking up and starting your day with more positive news content, go ahead and share the link to the episode with your friends. Share it on your Facebook page or your YouTube page. If you're watching on Twitch, go ahead and share it over there. Just let people know there's this weird guy that does nothing but every morning share positive stories to help people start their day in a more, on a happier note. Just trying to do my part to make the world a brighter place. And yeah, I appreciate it. So I will let you go, but until tomorrow, 9 a.m. Pacific time, meet me right back here, and we'll do it again. And until next time, I'm Ken McKim. You take care, and be kind to each other.